Hello everybody and welcome once again to Two Guys Philosophize with Sean Blake and Peter Wise. This episode is called Hysteria. What actually is it and why do some people succumb to it? Here's some information and chit-chat which we hope you find interesting and useful. Enjoy and please remember to subscribe. Right, hello everybody.
Hi everyone.
We hope you are all doing fantastically well on this beautiful, what day of the week it is?
I have no idea.
I think it's a Wednesday morning for us.
Yeah.
Today's subject is hysteria. We came across, being in the sort of therapy profession and Sean being in the healing profession, we've come across this many, many times. And I just want to start by... by the way, first of all, I want to show you something quite interesting.
Oh, yeah?
We make a few notes.
Okay.
I just want to show you Sean's notes. Okay,
no.
Here's Sean's notes. Right, that's for you. You can hang on to that. Here's my notes.
Okay.
Right.
That's an author. This is a creative person. Everything I need to say is within these circles.
Right.
Alright. That's all anyone needs to understand about the way I write things down.
Well, I don't have a brain, so I have to write things down. Anyway, let me read this to you. It was Sigmund Freud, I'm sure you all heard of Sigmund Freud, who proposed that the memory of trauma which the patient fails to confront because it will cause them too much mental anguish can be converted into physical symptoms. And the physical symptoms are what the hysteria is. What is more surprising is that cases like this are typical of those routinely seen by neurologists and therapists today, now called psychosomatic illness, and cover a large number of conditions. So, for example, a 35-year-old woman suddenly loses the use of her legs, becomes paralyzed from the waist down. In another case, a woman feels an overwhelming compulsion to keep her eyes closed, and she does this numerous times, blinking and blinking until her eyes gets kind of sealed shut.
So sorry, Peter, you're not speaking about the kind of hysteria.
Well, that's the idea. Woo! That's the idea that most people have,
yeah.
And I think that's the often, unfortunately, sorry ladies, is associated more with women going hysterical than men.
The 18th century for women, I would have been hysterical all the time. I don't know if you know about the treatments that they used to give for hysteria for women back down there. Down there, sorry for the Freudian slip, but yes, it was like...
Well, there was no treatment, and unbelievably, there still is no treatment. You can't take a pill to stop you becoming hysterical. Now, an example, for example, of hysteria, I mean, there's other words that can be used. You can use frenzy, uncontrollable emotional excitement, wildness, delirium. Hysteria is exhibiting strange behaviours in response to certain situations.
Can that happen on a societal level as well as on a personal level? Because in South Africa at the moment, everyone is hysterical about a whole lot of things that really aren't rational to be hysterical about.
Okay,
so can that translate into a social?
I think it can do on a mob level, but hysteria, like I say, is not the same as panic. For example, the coronavirus, which is going around as we speak.
Right.
Everybody all over the world is panicking, maybe rightly so, about this killer coronavirus. But they're not jumping up and down and going, because what seems to happen for a person to become hysterical is they seem to detach from normality. They have exhausted all mechanisms of coping mentally with a situation, and they just go mad. I can't do it anymore. I'm going to rip my hair out.
They go out of their minds,
they go out of their minds,
right.
And that's a very interesting turn of phrase. So when you can't find a correct coping mechanism to deal with something, could be anything. Could be let's say your daughter or one of your children died. You could go hysterical. You could stick a knife in your own throat. That is hysteria. It's not the same as grief.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Would this be hysteria? Because they did studies on the ferry, I think it was in Norway, that sunk, and a lot of people, because they had cameras and they could see what was actually happening to the passengers as the ferry kind of turned over.
Yeah.
What they noticed was certain people got up and reacted straight away in a very kind of linear pattern. Other people just wouldn't accept the situation. They just sat there kind of like, this isn't happening to me. This is not happening. It's not
right.
The psychologists and psychiatrists who analysed the tape said that their theory is that because we live this narrative, I'm on my way to work, I'm taking the ferry, anything that interrupts that narrative takes you out of your mind. Takes you out of your frame of mind that you're in.
Yes.
And being in that frame of mind, you don't know what to do, so you freeze.
You freeze, exactly.
In that, so it's a freeze and flight thing.
I don't know, is freezing a...
Is that
hysteria? I wouldn't say it is. I would say
you get blindness, hysterical blindness.
You do get hysterical blindness, which is inexplicable. The thing that intrigues me the most is why is there no treatment for this? I mean, in as much as I've studied all my therapy books and everything, they all say the same fucking thing. Get the patient to talk, keep them talking until they've talked out in front of you in a safe place all of their past traumas. Because remember we said at the beginning, hysteria results...
Yeah, but that could take a long time. I mean,
it definitely...
That's not an instant hysteria.
It definitely could take, but it's far more preferable than just sort of taking a 100-yard run at the, towards the top of a cliff and jumping off the edge.
What about the chemicals? What about the Prozacs and the calming tablets and the anti-anxieties and the Valiums and that? Would that not be an instant...
Sean, I don't really know the answer to that. Antidepressants deal with people who are depressed, supposedly. Mood stabilizers deal with people who have violent mood swings, supposedly.
The reason I'm saying that is because, especially in the suburb that we live in, everyone is highly medicated. And they're all highly medicated on antidepressants, anti-anxiety, anti-stress pills, and I think it is because of this hysteria that's going on socially around us at the moment.
Right.
Living in South Africa with all the issues that we have, which watch the news and you'll find.
Look, some people are more prone to becoming hysterical than others. You get these people who seem to be able to cope with any situation, even if like a tsunami, for example. If you live in a village, it's going to be quite a hysterical time, really. You're losing your houses are falling around and
traumatic.
Mm-hmm. So it's like when trauma becomes too much, it's something in the brain shuts off. I don't know what chemical reactions happen or what, and you suddenly become literally a lunatic. You sit there going, I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's hysterical, showing physical symptoms of something that's going on mentally.
Would you say that hysteria was kind of a post-traumatic stress disorder in a way?
I would do.
I'll tell you why. This is just bringing something to my mind now. They did a little bit of a study a while ago on why it was that soldiers who went to war, you would think that 100% of them had PTSD. I mean, you're seeing terrible things, heads being blown off, bodies being ripped apart, and everything. Yet only 1% of people that go into war actually get PTSD. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the theory behind that is the people who don't get PTSD are aware of the narrative that they're going into. They're aware they're going into a place where people are going to get their head shot off. They're aware that they... But the people that get the PTSD are the gung-ho, I'm going to kill them, never thinking about
what was that?
That aggro, I'm going to kill the Arabs, kill the Jews, kill her, I'm the best, I know, we got the best weapon. Suddenly when that narrative gets taken away from them, when they're under fire, and their friends are dying next to them. That narrative is like suddenly shattered, and they left there frozen. The same thing.
Well, look, there's a lot of cases documented of soldiers who have suffered what is known as shell shock.
Yeah, I was very interested you were doing so.
Suffer from something which is called psychogenic gait, and that means that soldiers who have been in a war zone, when they come back from a war zone, you kind of see them. I don't know if my head's going to get out of shot. I'm going to crowd. You see them walking around like this, and that's called psychogenic gait, a weird form of movement, or they get twitchy arm movements or things like that.
That sounds like a neurological. That sounds like a neurological side effect.
Very interesting. It is a muscular and everything side effect of the physical body to something that the mind perceives. I mean, you put yourself in a war situation. You see your best buddy blown to pieces next to you. You didn't plan for that to happen today, did you? You know what I mean? And it's going to affect some people to the point where they disassociate from reality. It's as if you're not. It's as if you're not here anymore. When you're in a hysterical mode, you're not here anymore. Good sense does not make good sense. You can say to somebody who's hysterical about whatever situation there may be, you can say to them, "Look, here's a solution. Just put this thing over there, and it will work." It won't cure their hysteria. They'll still be going, but the whole place is going to go up in fire and making these weird movements and something like that. It's like something has taken over their body, and that something has been given hysteria.
So what it seems to me is there's short-term hysteria and there's long-term hysteria.
Yeah, I think short-term would be more panic.
Yeah, kind of like your more panic attacks, more kind of flashbacks. But long-term hysteria would be the paralysis, hysterical paralysis.
That's right, blindness.
Blindness.
Yeah.
And that would take years of therapy to overcome.
Definitely, if it can be overcome at all. Unfortunately, we all think that if we get ill, mentally, as it were, or physically, that the doctors will cure us. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
What I'd like to know is, why do we get hysterical? Why?
I've just told you. You're not listening to me. Again. People get hysterical as a result of trauma that they have not processed properly and not resolved.
Yes, but I understand that. But we're in a situation now in South Africa where people are hysterical about things that aren't necessarily chances are it's fake news, is what I'm saying. There are far more important things that we could be hysterical about, right. But yet we cling on to the one thing, coronavirus, which is less deadly than
so if you were to be hysterical about coronavirus, you'd be packing, buying a tent, buying food supplies, getting up into the mountains. He's already bought all the stuff, and go away and isolate yourself completely. That would kind of be a hysterical response.
Oh, great! I'm hysterical.
You know
I thought I was a prepper. I'm not hysterical.
No, you're a hysterical responder to news which nobody quite knows the full truth about. Where is this coronavirus and everything? But to digress, there's also a type of hysteria like a mob hysteria, and you get that in, for example, football hooligans.
Riots.
Yeah,
I've been in a mob mentality riot, not as one of the people rioting, but with one of the opposition, and I've never been so terrified in my whole life. Everyone was in a trance, and it was a mob mentality, and no one was taking any responsibility for anything personally. It was the mob. There was no guilt, there was no empathy, there was no anything. It was just the most terrifying experience I'd ever experienced. Sorry, but it made an impact on me, because it made me realize how much of pack animals we actually are. We're literally animals. We get together in a pack, and
and we've got leaders.
Exactly.
And if those leaders exhibit signs of this gung-ho hysteria that we're going to beat up everybody else from the opposing football team, it's amazing how many hundreds or even thousands of people will get caught up in this hysteria.
Like a virus.
And you find people who are normally fairly gentle and placid and hold down jobs such as doctors and lawyers getting caught up in football hooliganism. You know what I mean?
So it's like a mind virus, basically. Other people get caught up in it, and you get caught up in their caught upness.
It's like a mind virus. I like that. It's like you're tuning in to the emotions of other people, or hysteria.
An emotional virus. I mean,
it can only be described. Look, to me, hysteria can only be described as an overreaction, because I don't know. Maybe that's not right. I'm going back to thinking about being in a war zone. If you can't cope mentally with something, what do? Well, you take heroin, or you drink yourself to death, or you go hysterical. The mind snaps. Something just snaps, and you are taken away from reality. We had this interesting thing which we found when we were doing our research. Well, I call it research. We read an article
while we were watching YouTube.
About this dancing.
Oh yes, the dancing plague of 1815. Yes,
you know a bit about that.
I mean, that's just so fascinating. But that's only one example of mass hysteria that's just never been explained. 1815. It started off with a woman who started dancing hysterically. She couldn't stop dancing, and then her husband started dancing, and he couldn't stop dancing. And literally, people would dance for months. They would be dying from heart attacks, dehydration, exhaustion. And this went on for months, and they couldn't explain where, why, how this was. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. Why this was happening, but they literally went hysterical to the point of killing themselves. I mean, and that's only like one example.
That's true hysteria.
What about the Orwell? I mean, what about the George Orwell War of the Worlds?
Oh, the radio broadcast.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I
do.
I mean,
that was...
Well, maybe we should explain a little for the benefit of our younger viewers. In about 1958 or something, a very famous actor and writer called George Orwell made a radio program, and it was supposed to be like a live news report that...
Kind of the first reality show.
It was supposed to be this live news report that aliens from Mars were invading the planet Earth, and people suddenly started going mad.
They went mad. They
jumping
were
over each other,
and arming themselves and leaving town and
wiping the shelves clean of the supermarkets and building underground bunkers and things like that. And all the while, it was just made up. It was supposed to be a joke. Fucking funny joke it was at the time, I'm sure.
I'm sure, yeah.
I'm sure people weren't that amused by that. But yeah, I mean, we've asked ourselves a question. Who benefits from people going hysterical? Let's say, who will benefit over people going hysterical about the coronavirus?
Governments, corporations,
people who sell medicines.
Any industry that can use fear to sell a product.
But let's face it. Look,
or any government that can sell a disease to inhibit another economy.
I mean,
there's
we do know there have been other similar viruses. We had the MERS virus, the SARS virus. We had bird flu. We had swine flu. We've got the flu, and we still don't have a cure for the flu. We still don't have a cure for the flu. The only cure we have is our own immune system. If you've got the flu, go to a doctor and he'll give you a prescription, and you'll pay your $50 or $100 or whatever it is, and you'll go away with some medicine, and in 6 or 7 days you'll be better. Wonderful. You would have been better in 6 or 7 days anyway,
because antibiotics don't work on viruses. This is an argument I actually had with a doctor who I had flu, and I went to the doctor just for supplements, and suddenly I got given like uber amounts of antibiotics, and I said to him, listen, like antibiotics or antibiotics. They don't work on viruses. Why are you prescribing me antibiotics? And the response to that was, just in case there's any opportunistic infections, because your body is like, we know what antibiotics actually do to your body. Which is another.
They screw your stomach up.
First of all, they kill all your natural fauna and flora in your body. It takes 8 years for that to recover after a period of antibiotics, unless you're doing the prebiotics and the probiotics by the way, probiotics don't work unless you've had prebiotics. And also another thing, yogurt only contains 4 bacillus. Not going to help you if you want to replenish your gut bacteria. You need to use things like kefir or kombucha. Normal yogurt, 4 bacillus, kefir, 57 million. So there's a vast difference. You can get your stomach into a better position way faster than just the yogurt. So when your doctor says you're taking antibiotics, go buy yogurt, don't. Go get kefir.
Okay. Well, I hope nobody out there who gets a cold will go hysterical. But basically, the coronavirus is just a common cold, mutated, because viruses obviously mutate, and then the researchers have to find a new.
But this is the other narrative that they spin. Every mutation is not necessarily a deadly mutation.
A bad mutation.
Okay, you know, a mutation. The chances of one organism transferring to another organism is so rare. That mutation is so rare. It's not like it happens every day. You know, more likely the mutation is going to be bad because it's evolution.
Yeah.
You know, so more likely the changes are going to be bad. It's the luck of the draw, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if the changes are too bad, the species will die out. And I think that's what people are worried about at the moment. They're worried about dying of this coronavirus. Another thing that's in the news at the moment is this 5G business.
Yeah.
Now, you know, like this 5G, I don't know if this is something old or something new. We've heard for a long time now that holding your phone to your ear for too long, you'll feel the heat and it will give you cancer of the brain or the ear or the testicles if you keep it in your pocket. I don't know if there's any truth behind that. There have been so many different reports. But why are people suddenly getting panicky about this 5G? I mean, do you know what this 5G is? It's kind of radiation or how does it work?
As far as I can understand it, and I'm going to be completely wrong on many levels. But I'm going to try and.
So what else is new?
Yeah, but I'm going to try and condense it into like normal language. So the cell phone technology that we use at the moment uses long form wavelengths, okay, which don't really affect our body that much. They kind of miss you if you go through you, right?
Right.
Now those wavelengths can travel long distances, so you can have a tower on that horizon and a tower on that horizon, and they will like talk to each other. With 5G, you've got to have a station like every kilometer away, and that station produces a very narrow frequency, which is between 1 and 2 millimeters long, as opposed to like 3 meters.
Yeah.
So when that frequency hits you, it's like a microwave oven, and it heats up 2 millimeters of your skin, which inevitably is going to heat up your whole body.
Yeah.
They believe that process causes your immune system to take a dive, which causes, now they say, coronavirus. Okay, because it so happens that wherever the coronavirus has really taken hold has been areas that are currently using 5G technology or have just switched on 5G technology.
Shit.
So, is it true?
I've got 5G.
No, you don't. We don't have 5G.
Why does my internet connection say 5G?
It says it's 5G capable.
Oh, I see.
But it's not 5G.
Oh, thank you. I'm not going to go hysterical.
You're not going hysterical. You were hysterical until I told you.
Yeah, I was. It's so many things pop up that can cause a person to worry, you know. But the thing is, The human being is built to be able to deal with worry and to be able to deal with problems, you know. But when a problem becomes too much, it can affect a person in many different ways. And when a problem becomes much too much, it can result in hysteria, which is literally losing it, losing control. You know, when you're in a hysterical state, I don't know what it feels like, but I would imagine that you wouldn't be able to communicate on any reasonable or rational level with a person who is in a state of hysteria.
Listen, why would you go hysteria? Why would there be a natural process of hysteria anyway? So what I want to ask you as a therapist and having kind of dealt with neurotic people and me, hysteria, brain fog.
Okay. Well, I'll answer it anyway.
Okay, go for it.
Hysteria, to me, is a protective mechanism. Is a protective mechanism for the body.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, it doesn't have a benefit for our body, ourselves. Do people after a hysterical attack, do they feel better?
Well,
do they feel relief?
I don't know. A hysterical attack can last any amount of time. It can last
of course,
lifetime.
Because you've got the two types.
You know, it can last a lifetime, but somehow some part of it is a protective mechanism, because the body and the brain will literally switch off because you've got you're standing 4 feet away from a lion, let's say, for example. You'll freeze, you'll fight. No, you won't fight a lion, or you'll run. But clearly there's a propensity there to go into a mode of hysteria, which I said before on one of our podcasts. If I got confronted by a lion, I'd probably break out into song and dance. That might scare the lion away. So that could be, you know, a lot of could be's and ifs and maybes, and you probably all think I'm mad and you're all right.
But the amazing thing is you actually never know how you are going to react in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Because I've been in situations where I've thought to myself, if this ever happens to me, this is how I'm going to react. But it's happened to me, and I haven't reacted like that at all.
That's it.
At all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. I was thinking also to myself, if we can consciously allow ourselves to become hysterical about something, and I think we can.
Oh yes, it's exciting. You know, it's exciting to get involved in the coronavirus and get on Facebook and make everyone panic.
Your excitement always seems to be excitement with death at the end of it.
Well, it's my job. I mean, like, what do I do? I'm a shaman. It's like and it ends in death anyway. So that's the final chapter.
We were also talking a bit about mass hysteria being a form of trance. For example, I don't know if you guys know what the whirling dervishes are. I think they're from Turkey, and it's a religious ceremony where these men get dressed up in their white gowns, which balloon out at the bottom as they twirl around and around and around and around and around and around.
Okay.
And they go on like this for hours and hours and hours, and the whole place is in a trance. But is that induced hysteria? You know, is that controlled hysteria? I don't know.
Is trance hysteria? I go to a lot of...
No, trance is taking too many ecstasy pills.
Well, okay, what I was going to say is I go to a lot of trance parties. In South Africa we call them trance parties. I don't know, Coachella in America, they've all got different names, I'm sure. But at the trance parties, there's a lot of tribal stomping and jumping around, and a lot of people go to trance parties to not take drugs.
What?
Because yes, a lot of people. Now we're talking about people
that
are
doing
healers.
it wrong.
We're not talking about like your average Joe who goes for a jaw. We're talking about like healers and stuff. They actually go to these trance parties because you can actually pick up on that energy, that energy. You can get high off the trance energy that's happening. Everyone is in this trance state, whether they're on drugs or not, because of the music, continuous boom, 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 boom. Lack of sleep, which is another thing that causes you to trance. People doing repetitive motions. You're on a dance floor, everyone's going,
so what happens when you're in a trance? What are you
I think you disassociate. I think it's a form of disassociation. I think it's a form of leaving your physical body and just being free. Just your mind being free of your body. Your body's doing whatever it's doing, but you're in a different place.
That's kind of interesting, because that's really what hysteria is. It's your mind leaving your body because it can't cope, and your mind says, "Sorry, I'm out of here." And your body, without a mind, is going to do all sorts of weird, do all sorts of weird things. Maybe.
And look, I've seen people be so uninhibited at trance parties that aren't on drugs because of that energy, energy of just being able to not be in your mind. You know, even if you haven't taken a drug, and you're amongst people who have taken a drug, they don't care about your mindset or your mind. So you can go out of your mind just naturally. You don't need to take the drug. You know, you can just get out there.
The thing is, when you talk about trance, I think about like a hypnotic trance. And if you're in a hypnotic trance, you don't realise that you're in that trance until somebody snaps their fingers and you're out of it. And even then you don't realise that.
When you're in a trance party, you'll hit the dance floor at 9 o'clock that evening, you'll leave the dance floor at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you'll wonder where the time went.
Yeah, okay. So that's what a trance is, also kind of a bit of disassociation from what's actually.
And is that not
really
what we need from society? It's just to actually for a moment just disassociate from all this trauma and all this incessant negativity and all this hysteria.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice, but considering we were having all of this news and misinformation smashed into our faces 1,000 times a day from 1,000 different sources, it's kind of hard to get it off your mind. But I mean, another interesting question is hysteria a symptom of our modern society? Did primitive man have anything to become hysterical about?
Anything?
You know, cavemen?
Well, do the people currently in the Amazon suffer from hysteria? I mean, they don't have the stresses, they don't have the pollution, they don't have the social structures, they don't have... So, I mean, their existence is literally just finding food, safety and sleep. You know?
So it seems to me, as we're talking, that hysteria is a word, I don't know where it comes from, it's probably Latin, they all are. It's like an umbrella for a lot of other stuff, like whether it be personality disorders or trances, or all fall under the label of hysteria, which is unusual and abnormal behaviour. Okay, because hysteria is distinguished because it's a behavioural thing.
Okay, so can I do a confession session?
Okay, yeah.
Just quickly. Okay. So the reason I have sinned. The reason I first came to see Peter was that I suffered from fibromyalgia, which is, I believe, caused by trauma. I think we've established that it's caused by trauma. And we worked through that, and I no longer have the body pain or the stiffness or I'm very lucky. But it was, for me, it was emotional pain and frustration and anger that I couldn't take out on other people. I couldn't take out on... So what I did is internalized it.
Right.
Okay. And basically made myself hysterical, my body hysterical, because I was having hysterical pains. Those pains didn't really... Well, they were very real, but they were psychosomatic.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, it was extremely interesting working with Sean and with fibromyalgia and finding out that, yes, it's likely that... it's a psychosomatic condition, which means it's a hysterical condition. I wonder.
And now he would never tell me this in therapy that I was hysterical. That's how much of a professional you are. Like,
I fell asleep.
I'm just hearing it now. I'm bloody hysterical.
I fell asleep when I was in sessions.
Yeah, I noticed. So it's like, yeah.
But
I looked at the doodles.
Can it be, for example, like yesterday morning, I woke up and for no reason at all, I sat down on the couch and I burst out crying. And I was saying, my life is really quite good, apart from all the scaremongering that I have to put up with. My life is really quite good. The only thing I really wish I could do was to give up smoking. And I suddenly burst out crying. Now, could that be considered a sort of a hysterical response?
Well, that's a very emotional reaction. And I mean, hysteria is an emotional thing.
Mm-hmm. Do we think there is a correlation between becoming hysterical and having a nervous breakdown? Or are they just two different names for the same thing?
What happens to you when you have a nervous breakdown?
Well, I don't know. You go hysterical, I suppose. Lots of things could happen.
Have I ever had a nervous breakdown?
Well, have you ever had times?
I suppose I would know if I had a nervous breakdown, hey? But I mean, seriously, I actually don't know what happens when you have a nervous breakdown.
Well,
do you become hysterical and start screaming and shouting? Do you just not make sense? What happens when you...
It's different for different people. I mean, a nervous breakdown is again a way of the mind, brain, whatever, telling the rest of your body that it can't cope with your situation anymore. You refuse to try and do anything more about it. You're just going to lie on the couch until you die, or it's generally nervous breakdowns are associated with depression, and there's 100 different forms of depression as well, and it gets very, very complicated. Nowadays, for example, a couple of 100 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago even, if you had Tourette's syndrome, it was associated with hysteria. It wasn't known that it was a chemical, misfunction or misfiring in the brain. It wasn't known. And you were labelled mad immediately or hysterical and thrown into a lunatic asylum. Nowadays we have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, where people, I think everyone knows what OCD is. Is that a form of hysteria as well? And yes, it is, because the behaviour you're doing is abnormal, like checking the door locks 100 times. We have spoken a little about this before.
It's compulsive, but is it hysterical?
It's weird.
It's weird because look, I know I suffer from a bit of OCD in that I will lock the door and leave, and then I'll think that I locked the door, and I come back and I lock the door, and then I'll leave, and then I think to myself like, okay, you open the door, so you find out if you locked the door, so now did you lock it again? And then I have to go back again. But I know in my mind, I know that I've locked the door. Yeah. I can see it. I can feel it, I know it, but there's something that says, go check the door. And sometimes it's 3 or 4 times until I actually get irritated with myself and just say, for fuck's sake, I don't care if they steal my fucking shit. Okay, I'm just like leaving now. So
these are sort of mild
hysteria.
Mild forms of hysteria, when you kind of lose control of your senses. When you lose it, you're no longer in the room. You've gone off somewhere else. But still, what amazes me is how is it that these conditions can still not be properly treated? Surely we know enough about brain chemistry. Well, obviously we don't. I watch programs on TV about these wonderful breakthroughs, and you see these fantastic medical laboratories where they're doing all this research, and I think to myself, well, they should have a cure for everything by now. But the fact is they don't. The corner whatever virus, another thing. They've got to do research now and find something to combat that. Otherwise, people are going to get hysterical big time.
Okay, but you know what? They have started kind of on one end of the scale, because they have doctors, I think, isolate people who are prone to hysteria and then start giving them anti-anxiety tablets.
Right. Okay.
So
I mean, would you say?
Because
I understand what you say. Yeah, they're trying to sort of nip it in the bud.
In the bud, yeah.
So what you're suggesting is, if a person is prone to hysteria, it may well be genetic.
Well, we do know that there is the neurotic gene. We do know.
Do we? I didn't.
Yeah, there is a neurotic gene.
Can't they just cut it out then?
No, they can't, because it does other things too.
Oh.
It's responsible for a whole lot of other things. It just doesn't depend. It just doesn't make you neurotic. That's just a switch. But there's a neurotic gene, and it is inherited. And there's if you inherit that gene, there's a 50% chance that you will develop some kind of depression, emotional instability, bipolar disorder. But the emotional range of psychological disorders, not schizophrenia or the emotional. Kind of.
I wonder though. It's unusual because the word hysterical, taken obviously to mean something extremely funny, and it would have been
hysterical. Didn't the word hysterical maybe come from the laughing plague? Where people were hysterical, they were laughing hysterically.
The laughing plague.
Yeah, in 1815.
How do you know all this stuff, man? Where do you keep all this information?
I don't know.
He's got an earpiece or something like that.
Because there was a laughing epidemic too, and it was one person started laughing. It was also in the 18th. It was also in the 18th. And I have this theory about the 1815, round about that area. There was a lot of wars, a lot of trauma, a lot of shit happening at that stage. It was like it was the Middle Ages. There was a lot of poverty, a lot of pain, a lot of hardship, a lot of things that would, I think, be very good at causing hysteria amongst a lot of people.
Okay, so look, I think for the last, I don't know.
But is hysteria like a phobia? Because as I understand a phobia is something that when you have too much to deal with in your brain, when you can't deal with what's actually happening, you project it onto an object. So that is easier to deal with. So instead of now being scared of a meteorite hitting the planet, hurtling through space at 1 million miles an hour, maybe there's a God, maybe there's not a God, maybe I'm going to die, no, I'm going to die. I can focus that all on that controllable thing called that cup. So I now have a phobia for glasses. Okay, so much easier for me to get rid of the glass. Because I projected it onto that. Yeah, but then
another glass will come along. I think what you could say is that hysteria is a reaction to a phobia. You know what I mean? You're scared of spiders, fair enough. You're scared of mice. Let's say we all know the picture of the woman jumping on the stool because she's scared of the mouse. But if she was to go running around screaming in the streets and tearing her head out and clawing her face until the blood ran off it, you know what I mean? And punching people as she ran down the middle of the motorway, that would be hysteria. So there are distinctions between things like OCD, hysteria, nervous breakdowns, trance, anxiety, and all of these things. But I think it was because people didn't know, before I'd say 1850, people really didn't know anything about the brain or how it worked, and even
it was all humours and ether.
That was all about the ether and humours and bloodletting and all these kind of things, which some of them worked and went on to become, to be developed into medicines that we still use today. But what I started off by saying was it's weird that the word hysterical, I do believe it must come from hysteria, because it must be very funny to watch a person who is exhibiting hysterical physical symptoms.
No, that must be very disturbing.
If I sat here and kept bashing my head,
I would be so.
I kept bashing my head against.
I'd be freaked out. I don't think it's funny.
Well, I think there are a lot of people who would think it was funny, which is quite sad, really.
I can't really believe you that. I mean, I can't see anyone going hysterical and people laughing at it. I mean, it's a rather serious state to be in.
I don't know, man. When I'm around you, sometimes I nearly go hysterical.
But I'm hysterical all the time, so I don't know the difference. So I just like rub that off on you. It's like,
so let's go back to mass hysteria. Does it benefit us in any way? Mass hysteria. Have we spoken about this?
We kind of brushed on it, but does it serve us socially? Maybe it keeps us aware of... You see, my secret conspiracy theory, and if I'm not on the next podcast, it's because I've said this, is that this whole coronavirus thing is a psyop. It's a psychological operation where the powers that be, the people at the top, or whatever, the elite, whatever you want to call them, are basically doing test runs to see what would happen if something like this really did hit in a bad way. Because, come on, 3,000 deaths so far is not a huge thing. It's no reason to shut down a country.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Which suggests
so
that might
it
be
would
worse
suggest to me that there were governments involved in this. There are people closing countries, airways. Is this not maybe just a worldly psyop where the governments have got together and said, look, let's run this like trial, because it's not that day. You're going to lose 10,000 people out of like 8 million.
But that's obviously very, very dangerous. It can get out of control. As far as I remember,
they've done it before. They did it with smallpox.
Well, look, the original story around AIDS was that it came from a monkey in Africa, and somebody had sex with a monkey. No, it didn't happen like that. But the other conspiracy was that it was a government created.
There'll always be those conspiracies, but just me as if I had to be an elite, if I had to be one of those people that had all the money in the world, ran countries, economies depended on what my decisions were, whatever, I actually would, to benefit mankind, think that running a psyop like this would be beneficial for mankind in the future, because although we've lost 10,000 people, we might, through the knowledge we've gained through the psyop, save 8 billion people. Okay, I know that's a very psychopathic way of thinking about, but that's how corporate thinks.
It's the truth.
That's how government thinks.
And I don't think whoever they are, care about anybody on an individual level.
No,
and I don't think they care about whether it's going to drive us hysterical or not. In fact, that's what they want to find out.
I think that's what they want to find out.
What happens
what are we going to do? Are we going to riot? Are we going to lose our minds? Are we going to stand together? Are we going to be separated by this?
It's difficult to say. Going back to the genetics thing, though, as you know, we've made huge, not we, but people have made huge strides. They've mapped the human genome now, and they're busy dissecting it to find out what gene does what. So there must be some sort of genetic propensity that people have that make it difficult for them to cope with ordinary everyday things, like going to the bank.
That's the neurotic gene I was telling you about. So here's full disclosure. So I go and do DNA tests. I find out that I have the neurotic gene. Okay, and it because of the way the genetics works, my sister also has this neurotic gene. However, in her, it has not expressed at all. My sister is the most level-headed, family-orientated, not unemotional, but unmovable, unexcitable, you can't convince her about conspiracies or anything. She's very level-headed. Whereas I have obviously got that gene switched on because I can get really emotional about stuff, and I can get really irrational about stuff, and I can get depressed, and I can get angry, and I have these emotions that are amped. They amped up a bit.
When have you been hysterical?
I don't think I've ever been hysterical.
I remember a time
I was, yes.
when you were verging on being hysterical, if you don't mind me sharing.
And you said one thing to me wow, that was amazing. Yeah, go for it.
Well, Sean sent me a video of himself walking down the beach, literally having a nervous breakdown and filming himself doing it.
That's right. That's right, yeah.
I do apologise for not sort of driving out to the beach to come and rescue you. But I think by the time I'd seen you a couple of days later, you were over it. But you sent it to me, and it was during the time we were having therapy.
Oh my God,
together.
that was I had totally blanked that out of my mind. That was terrible.
So I think a lot of people do have little episodes of hysteria in their life when suddenly something happens that you can't. Again, it's back to control.
Do you know what I felt?
You can't control.
That's what I felt. And I had no control. I had no grip on reality. Nothing made sense anymore. Nothing. Now that you bring that back to my mind, shit. Yes, I've been hysterical. I've been out of my mind. I have. And
so have I.
And the one day I remember something happening and me walking in here in an absolute state, and you said to me, "You're safe." And just those two words, like, made everything okay. You're safe. It was just those two words. No other words in the world would have helped me out of that situation.
But the thing is, I was lying.
But it didn't matter. It didn't matter at that stage. There was somebody there who could ground me and say, "Safe, you're safe."
Okay. Look, I think hysteria and all of these mental conditions. We've done an episode on mental illness, and it's too much to
no, it's so
spend
much.
the rest of our lives talking about it.
Yeah.
But,
that was ambitious of us. That really was.
What it says here, I'm going back to my little piece of paper here, and all these conditions that we've talked about, like depression, hyperanxiety, OCD, and all of these kind of things, they were all labelled as hysteria, and you were basically thrown into a mental institution. But the term hysteria was dropped, it says here, when the influence of a psychodynamic theory of mental ill health, with its concepts of unconscious mental forces affecting behaviour, came into practice. So that is basically sitting with a person or being able to get in touch with what's going on inside you subconsciously. It's very difficult to get in touch with your own subconscious, but if you practice, you can kind of hear, this voice talking to you.
Well, if you go quiet. If you go quiet.
Yeah, if you go quiet. And some people, your gut feeling, go with your gut feeling. That's what your subconscious is telling you. But look, if there's no other option, if you're stuck in a situation where you're facing life and death, or where you've faced death, as with the soldiers, and come through it, and you've seen all these terrible things, you can develop this, has been known up to now as hysteria, and it's only kind of now changing hysteria. I mean, people used to suffer from neuroses, various different types of neuroses. I don't know what they were. They were phobias, they were fears, they were panic disorders, or whatever. They used to be called neuroses, or they used to be called hysteria. But
that was what I was going to ask. Is panic attacks not an obvious hysteria?
I think so. Yes, I think a panic attack could be described as hysteria because
it's not real. I mean, I've had panic attacks where I felt like I'm going to die. I need to go to the hospital. I'm having a heart attack.
I mean, if any of you guys out there have had a panic attack,
it's the worst feeling in the world.
It's a really, really bad thing,
and it's all coming from your brain, and that just shows you how your brain can manifest these things in your body. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. So hysteria. So where are we going to leave it with hysteria? We wanted to find out a little bit more about what's happened with this word that was used a lot 100 years ago and is now less used.
Or used differently, probably.
It's used used differently. Yeah. But now there are various types of hysteria, and you can get a pill for anyone that you like. It's probably not going to work. The thing that's interested me the most is the genetic aspect of it. Some people clearly are much calmer than others, you know,
Yeah.
in a given situation. Some people, you know, just don't know how to cope with daily life. I think I'm one of those people, you know. And I have
Rubbish, man.
Sean comes round 2-3 times a week to keep me sane.
I get free therapy.
When you're in a state of hysteria, that's insanity. That's insanity. That's above and beyond normal behaviour.
Being out of your mind, yeah.
I can see you're gonna. He's looking. He's doing his research now, lazy bastard.
I do my.
So I'll let you do a bit of quick research.
No. I want to get the name of the neurotic gene.
The name of the neurotic gene. Wow.
Neuro.
Nothing's happening, Sean.
Neurotic.
He's typing there.
That's because my computer's neurotic.
His computer's slow. All right. Well, let's see what gems we come up with now.
Okay. Genes tied to intelligent and neurotic behaviour identified.
Intelligence and neurotic behaviour.
Okay, so there we go. So only intelligent people are neurotic.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
I'll go with that one.
Well, I'm neurotic.
Oh my god, I'm so neurotic I need to be put away. Wait. Okay. This scientist exploring life.
Okay.
Alright.
There's some more misinformation off the internet for you.
Some more. Okay, so genes linked to intelligence or neuroticism have been reported in 2 separate studies conducted by the same group and published in Nature today, blah, 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 blah. Funnily enough, if you have that gene, you have less chance of getting Asperger's and Alzheimer's and ADHD and schizophrenia.
So any single gene...
So depression, neuroticism... They've identified 599 genes implicated in neurotic behaviour.
599. So
I'm sorry. There's not one gene. Okay, there's a number of genes.
Okay. So look, it's definitely we're all a little bit different from each other. We all cope with things in different ways. I think we're going to come to a close now.
I like this close because I've just found out I'm clever.
Well, you just found that out.
I just found that out now. I was clever.
Yeah, Sean is a clever bloke.
Clever. I'm neurotic.
He's very
clever.
self-deprecating because he's always fishing for compliments, but he does get them.
Love me for fuck's sake, love me.
And rightly so. He's a clever bloke. So look, hysteria used to be called hysteria. Now it's called 1,000 different other things. It's probably something to do with your genes. Nobody knows what to do in a situation really where you can't cope, you lose total control and you go mad, and it still happens today and it's still going on today, and we're still seeking the correct way to treat things like hysteria or severe
We're still looking for the sanity pill.
The sanity pill. That's a good note to end it. If any of you guys find the sanity pill, please leave a comment. We'll come and collect one and we'll start manufacturing them. Alright guys.
It's been nice, guys. Missed you this week. Check you next one.
See you next time. Ciao.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, and you all have a lovely day.